Hello and good morning friends, welcome to CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, as you know, this session of ours is all dedicated to the management subject. We have been discussing on lots of issues, lots of topics related to management. Today we are going to talk on entrepreneurship. What is entrepreneurship? We are going to discuss it, what is the process involved. All these questions are going to be discussed here. For this we have again with us in our studios Dr. Ropi Wali. He is a professor in IIFT. So first of all, I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Wali. Dr. Wali, welcome to the EDISET lecture, and over to you. All what about entrepreneurship you wish to discuss with our students?
Yes. Good morning, and as Ms. Unyal was just saying, that we are going to talk about entrepreneurship today, and we would do an introductory talk on the process of entrepreneurship. But before we move on to the process of entrepreneurship, we would look at the importance of this whole, concept of entrepreneurship, why it is important and how it is relevant to the Indian context to begin with. To begin with, I would like to say that all countries who have actually prospered over a period of time and have really shown remarkable progress, the major ingredient in their whole policy has been a great push for the entrepreneurship. If we look at countries, let us say Germany, after complete devastation in World War II, in say mid-30s, it emerged as the largest exporter in the world in a matter of 20 to 25 years, which is now recently being surpassed by China. So what lesson do we really carry from the whole progress that this country has really made in those 20 years? What really they did? If we look very closely into the state policy priorities, there was a major push for the entrepreneurship, major facilitation for the entrepreneurship, and how really they created conducive atmosphere for entrepreneurship to really flourish during these 20 years. And that is where Germany really stands today, and where it has really been able to really rank as the number one, which of course got surpassed by China. Then we again come to the next ranker, China, who is now in fact doing the kind of ranks in the whole area of economy, progress, business, trade, whatever you talk, they are really doing fantastic. But what basically is behind this whole progress, one major thing is that there's a lot of entrepreneurship that has really happened in the last 3 decades in the China, and it has been facilitated through direct intervention of the government, and inculcating that kind of spirit among the individuals of China region. And not only people who were in China, the people who were as diaspora in other countries, they came back and started investing back money into the China, and got into the entrepreneurship mode, and that has really helped this country to really progress so much that we really see around us today. And the story is not different for say countries like Korea. Again, it is the story of entrepreneurship that has really made this country so big. Now, coming back to India, if we look closely what has happened in the past and how it is really now, and the kind of progress we have been seeing in the last couple of decades, or at least last 1.5 decade, a lot of it has to do with the growth in the entrepreneurship in the Indian space. Though it was more focused in certain areas only, not widespread, but yes, entrepreneurship has played a bigger role in whatever growth India has really achieved, and is claiming its position in the global economy space. This all has essentially happened in certain sectors. Let us say IT has been one of the major sectors where a lot of entrepreneurship has happened, and we have engineering goods, we have handicrafts, we have textiles, automobiles. There are different areas where a lot of entrepreneurship has happened in the past. But given the size of the population, given its resources, I think there's a lot to really achieve. And if we see last couple of years, in fact, if you read the media in the last couple of decades, there's a lot of growth, sudden growth in the entrepreneurship. And particularly that is the interesting part is that it is growing, it is happening at an age bracket which is between 25 to 35 or 40, and that is quite remarkable, and that really gives us kind of a silver lining or a hope that it is really going to happen in a very big way in India. So people are really moving into this entrepreneurial mode, and people are appreciating it. The reason for the appreciation of entrepreneurship needs to be seen. Like, what is it that basically it offers to the individuals, rather than seeking a career in a company? Why should somebody really opt for entrepreneurship? What basically motivates somebody? If you look at it, the advantage is that you can do things on your own. You can actually realize your dreams. You can explore yourself, and you are basically free to execute, strategize, whatever you want. There's no kind of stop on that thing, as it may not be same when you are working in a corporate, because there you have to really follow somebody else's dream. That means the entrepreneurs who have really set up that company, they have a dream, and you are trying to really achieve their dreams. You are a part of that whole process. So that is the basic difference. So people who are actually getting into entrepreneurship is a kind of a mindset which is ready to really take up the risks, take up the challenges, and ability to really be persistent to reach the goal, because realization may not come very quickly. It may have a lot of trouble. So all this one has to be really ready for. The people with these kind of attributes, with these kind of say traits, are probably a better candidate for the job of the say role of the entrepreneur. So that is a nutshell. As a starter for this whole story. So what we will do is we will look at the process of entrepreneurship. What is it, and what are the different pillars that make entrepreneurship a possibility? One. Second, then we will look at a couple of examples depending on the time that we have, and we will see how these pillars or the concepts that we think are important for entrepreneurship, how they have really helped somebody or deterred somebody to progress in the path of entrepreneurship. Because whatever we say, whatever we tell as the lessons, it has to come through examples, some cases, because those cases and examples give us the lessons, because they are the evidence. So that is how the agenda is for the next say 1 hour. So to begin with, we will start with entrepreneurial process. What is it? And so basic thing, can we have the slide? So any company, like when a company starts, we call it a startup, and to make it really succeed in its goals, there are 3 basic things that one has to really consider as the major macro factors that would dovetail into a successful startup. The first thing is there has to be in realization, or say understanding of the opportunity which is available over there, because unless there's an opportunity, the whole economy may be in crisis. You can't really you may have an opportunity over there, but important thing is, can you really identify that opportunity? But similarly, if things are really moving in a very positive direction in the trade, in the economy, in the business, in the development side, so people who are basically trying to get into entrepreneurship, they are looking for some kind of a gap, some kind of an opportunity where they can add value to the lives of the people, to the development, to the country. So that opportunity which is attractive enough, which is sustainable, which is growing, is something that is quite important. And this opportunity has to be timely. There could be an opportunity which could be on way ahead, maybe which can happen after 5 years, but some people slightly they try to make things, deliver things, propose things beforehand. So we say this model is good, but this is just much ahead of the time. So I remember a movie which was made by the late legendary Raj Kapoor. He made a movie, Mera Naam Joker. It was supposed to be one of the best movies that considered as a very classic movie. But a lot of people, actually, the critics said at that time that it was ahead of its time. It could have been a great movie. It would have been maybe after 10-15 years. So that is the kind of issue. One has to really through a model in time. And similarly, there are a lot of models which erupted in the time of when there was initial .com boom, which was early 2000. A lot of companies really, sprouted, and they stayed for some time. Then most of these companies actually went out of the market. We call it .com bust. So a lot of those models now are trying to again venture back into the space of .com scene, and they are very, very successful. We see a lot of companies, Jabong, Flipkart, and Snapdeal, and a lot of interest is growing over there. But these companies, if they would have come, and a lot of companies, such similar models came in the early 2000, and most of these companies went bust in India, I say particular, because the kind of ecosystem that was really prevailing in terms of the facilitation, in terms of the consumer behavior, in terms of the infrastructure. So the timely issue is very, very important, that you throw the model at the right time. And another thing is that one has to really look at what is the goal of the whole entrepreneurial act. A lot of people, most of the people, I believe, is they actually want to get entrepreneurship to make a profit. Let us put it very simple. That you want to realize or target some opportunity, mobilize resources, and are trying to get into some commercial transaction with the kind of stakeholders that you are targeting, and make profit out of it, whether it is in B2B, say business to business, or it is business to consumer, or business to government, whatever space we consider. But the idea is to really make a profit. But at the same time, there are say entrepreneurs who would like to really realize a different goal, what we call a social entrepreneurship. They want to really do good for the society. A lot of people have really made a lot of wealth, but at some point of time they have an entrepreneur model where major goal is to really uplift the society. So such models are also available, and they could be also interesting depending on the individual, what that person really wants to achieve, what basically is in the priority. Is it the profit, or is it the social upliftment, self-actualization? So but as I said, major thing is that they want to really make profits. And another thing important is that understanding of the context. When we are saying opportunities, context is very, very important. Certain things can be, certain acts can be very, very interesting and very productive in a particular context, and same act may not be productive in another context. That what model can really work in India may not work in, let us say, Bangladesh. Similarly, a model which will work in US may not actually work in India. So one has to really see what is the context, and there may be need of the adaptability of that model to the local context. And certain models, of course, they are quite generic, they are global, they work everywhere. That is a McDonald's. More or less, the model is, cuts across cultures and national boundaries, except certain, say, pockets. But more or less, the model is a standard model, and it works everywhere, and it has worked through franchisee models. But the basic process of, making a profit out of the whole service they are providing is workable everywhere. So it needs some kind of, say, marginal adaptability in terms of the taste, communication, etc., but the basic model remains same. So the second pillar that we will be talking about is the people, because for any kind of startup, it is important that you understand the business, you understand the product or the service that you are actually trying to build for the users. In understanding of that product, understanding of that process is quite important. When we say the product, we also say the people who are consuming that product or consuming that particular service. If I want to run a restaurant, I don't know anything about the kind of food, kind of the taste, kind of the people who would like to prefer or go for a kind of say cuisine. I probably may not fit better in this kind of a business. Now the issue arises, does that mean that if I don't have the skills, if I don't have the domain knowledge in a particular area, I can't really get into a business? Because there are a lot of examples you may be really seeing around the big business, entrepreneurs who are now big multinationals. Most of them now will have businesses, they may not be having even the basic technical qualification for that. But what they really have the ability is leadership, they have the ability of governance, they have the ability of managing things. So what they actually do is they get people who have the ability to really run a kind of a business. That means their ability to find right people for the right kind of, say, project. That is quite important. That means if I want to start an entrepreneur project, and I want to get into pharmaceuticals, and I may not be a pharma graduate, I may not have really done anything in the pharmaceuticals, but somebody actually provides me a very valid report, market report, that is a huge opportunity. Now how do I really go about it? The best idea is to really have some domain expert from the pharma sector who can really guide me from the technical side of this particular project. Similarly, I need somebody who can actually help me with the logistics, transportation. Not everybody can have the same, not everybody have all the skills. So it is important to really have the required skill set to run a business through actually identifying right people and creating a team to run that particular business. So there is, the people factor becomes the crucial and the most important aspect of any business. Trust me, when people were fighting financial crisis debate, and there was a lot of discussion going on some years before, one country which you will again appreciate is China. They were really arguing and discussing at that time the talent crisis. So talent is the most important thing for any country. And I believe the most important resource that we have been losing in the past is the human resource, the people, because that is the best raw material, most valuable raw material that has been really going to the say West. And then those same people work in the best companies over there, they create the best products over there, and those products are coming to us. So it is not the product raw material that is going and processed product coming to us. It is actually the people behind that whole phenomena which basically we have been losing in the past. So as a policy issue, just to really add to the whole discussion. So the third pillar that I would like to talk about is the funding. Because any business which wants to achieve its goals will need funding, and funding can come through different sources. It can come through a bank, it can come through relatives, friends, it can come through people who we call as a venture capitalists, who are basically interested in the kind of say product or the technology you are basically putting on the table, and they would actually invest in that, become a part of your whole say guiding panel, and they would actually try to seek their profits in the process. They are also there to really guide you in the kind of same technology venture you are running, and ultimately they would make an exit at the end of the day. So that means there's a design that has to be created to see that you secure funding, and those people who fund you have a genuine interest, can have an interest which is quite attractive to them, and then they have a route to really leave that particular company. Whether you run an IPO, you float an IPO, or you create a kind of an terms of reference which helps them to really leave the particular company. Because a lot of people basically invest like that, and there's a new trend which is going in the market which is called crowdfunding. So there are a lot of platforms who can really help you to really secure funding. That means you put an idea to the trial of to the consideration of the people in the general web or say media, online media, and people look at your idea. If they're interested, they will actually give small funds which actually aggregates into a bigger fund for you. And this platform who basically run such crowdfunding platforms, they actually manage this whole coordination between the user of the funds and the people who are putting in the funds. But top of all these three things put together, there's one thing that is basically the underlying factor, or say underpinning concern for all ventures or entrepreneurial say tasks, is the risk part. That an entrepreneur has to be ready for a risk, because it is quite possible the venture you really run with whatever say targets you had, is quite possible that it may not be realized the way you actually desired or the way you really wanted it. Reason being, a lot of things we assume when we are basically getting with the product, getting the service into the market. Let us say we created a product. I made some product which can do some fantastic thing in a domestic say context. So it may not really be liked by the customers later on when it is offered in the market. And the cost of making this product may be too high, and people may not be ready to really afford that kind of a product. And second thing is, people may not be really interested in that kind of a product. So there could be a lot of reasons for that product to go a failure. Or the market may be actually quite limited. Or the market is there, but it is not growing at a size. Or it is quite possible that the moment you got the product into the market, somebody else got an equivalent replica of the product into the market. There are a lot of countries who are now, you understand, who are very great at creating a similar product in the shortest possible time at almost 2-3 times lesser the cost that you can really create. So the moment they see a good product running the market, next moment you will have the replica or a substitute in the market. So all these issues are quite possible when you are entering at a market. The issue is, are we really ready for that? The mindset cannot be that if I fail and I give up, I do a suicide, it is not really going to work. So for an entrepreneur, it is quite essential that they should be ready to learn from the failures and move on. So risk is the part of the whole game plan, and people who can't really take risk probably are not really advised to enter the stream of entrepreneurship. But one thing for sure, that one doesn't need to really be prepared for, one doesn't need to really take a blind risk. Thing is, the whole discussion on entrepreneurship today, and the way I'm really planning to take forward in the next series of sessions, is to suggest a systematic framework which actually reduces the amount of risk, which makes you more prepared for that risk, which also helps you to hedge the risk in the process of setting up your entrepreneurial venture. So that is what we are going to really talk about and do in more detail. So basic, three things that we really conclude from this is, one is that whatever ambition, that whatever assumptions we are making about the opportunity, which has to be there, can be uncertain, can be ambiguous, and one. Second is, the opportunity means that you have to apply a lot of creativity to realize an opportunity. Because when we say an opportunity, there is some need in the market, some want in the market, and as the time progresses, a lot of people are there around the world who are actually having the same kind of ambition like anybody would like to have as an entrepreneur. So there are a lot of products and services in the market. One has to really find a gap area. That is, that gap which you can, or the person who wants to get into entrepreneurship can really fill up, and can really create value for the users, for the customers, for the say businesses, so that there is a commercial transaction possible and you realize profits out of it. But to realize that opportunity, it is important that one should be able to mobilize resources. Resources, we said, people, funds, and there are a lot of other facilities that need to be created when you are actually realizing a business goal. So all those things have to be really mobilized to achieve this goal. And third thing that is important is the importance of a team. There's a team, there's a group. Team means that different people put together are able to create more value. Everybody brings in some kind of a skill, which are requisites for that kind of a business. So that is what we were discussing. So these are the three basic things that have to interact to really help somebody move forward systematically in an entrepreneurial task. So this is the framework. Frameworks are helpful in really understanding, conceptualizing, decisions, conceptualizing strategies. So the entrepreneurial process that we were trying to talk about, it has the three components that we said is the idea, the resources, and the champions. So the main task now remains to build an organization. So organization means some kind of an edifice, some kind of a structure, some kind of a design which puts all these three things into the place. That means how we are able to plot resources in the processes, define the processes that is going to realize that opportunity, and how the people in the overall set of resources are going to really work as a team and utilize the resources that are available to us and the resources that we are trying to hunt for. So if we are trying to, let's say, get resources, let's say financial resources, I want to get a debt from the bank at some kind of an interest, let us say 10% interest or 15% interest, unless I'm able to make much more than that interest rate in terms of the rate of return on the investment, probably my entrepreneurial whole task may go as a failure or a failed flow. So it is important that all the things are basically put in an organized way, and an organization is basically working towards achieving the goals of the entrepreneurship. So that is quite important. The important thing about the finance is that we need money. our own money more like as an essential thing, because nobody would give us finances unless we put our own finances into the business. But important thing is how much money do we really need. It depends on the kind of experience you have about the business. You may have, let us say, somebody may has X amount of money. Sometimes it can be very dangerous to really put all this money, whatever you have as savings, into an entrepreneurial act and lose everything, because as I said, there's an element of risk. So unless one has really learned something, has an experience, has the capability to run a business up a particular size, because we have seen a lot of people when they start a small business, they are successful. The moment they really scale up, they are totally in a disaster. So it is also important that you probably calculated how much money you need to really put in from your side, and how much experience and abilities you have for that venture. So if you have sufficient experience, you are more confident, probably you can put in more money from your side, and then look for the rest of the money from the investors, or say banks, or any kind of funding sources. So the next thing that we are going to talk about is the value creation process. How does an entrepreneur actually create value, which ultimately translates into some kind of a profit for the entrepreneur. So a core fundamental entrepreneurial process actually has to target this value creation. So there are a lot of processes in the organization that we talked about, but there's a core process which has to actually now hunt for this value creation and realize profits through value creation, sustainable value, growing value. There's, as I said, that in any kind of a business, there are a lot of forces which are acting constantly. Thing is, the moment there is somebody else who brings in a similar product with a lesser cost, the value you are providing to the customer is actually not, perceived the same way that it was perceived earlier. The thing is, how do we really sustain that value? And also that over a period of time, if your company, if your venture doesn't really grow, doesn't really move forward, there's possibility that it may die, because companies who don't really move on, who don't really grow, possibly, over a period of time, there's a definite say scope for moving down the size and probably die out of the market. So the driving forces that dominate this highly dynamic entrepreneurial process, various things. One is, what is the opportunity that is really driving it? How big is it? Let me give you one example. Last year, I think last year, I'm not sure about, I saw a very interesting article in the Times of India. It was about a particular couple who have started a company, Simplistic, and they have come with a product which is called a Rotimatic. Now this Rotimatic is quite interesting. This can make 20 rotis in a matter of say 20 minutes, 1 minute for each roti. You can put 3 ingredients, flour, water and the oil medium in 3 different bowls, and for 1 minute, and you can decide on the kind of softness, say kind of amount of medium oil you want to really use, and just press the button and you get 1 roti a minute. Now the moment it was put on, this particular product was put on, by the way, this is they are Singapore based, this product was put on internet, there were around some 0.6 million say views of this particular product in a matter of 2 weeks. Now imagine, very simple thing, this technology, though they have patented most of the technology that is really used in this whole product, but if you look very closely, most of these technologies are separate technologies, they are individual technologies, they have been aggregated into a comprehensive technology to create a product and to attack a kind of an opportunity which is so vast spread. You can imagine the Indian market and the kind of say roti consumption in India and the kind of trouble people basically have in making this whole thing, first to create the dough, then make say have the rotis do one by one, and a lot of people have helps and attendants to really do such things. Now this whole thing would make that whole job quite easier. Now this product has not been introduced in India so far, and this product has been now is likely to be launched in the US. But why I am telling you is, this is an opportunity, there is a clear-cut huge market for that, but it is not necessarily that there is an opportunity, there is a value for the customer, and there is a size for this, and it is really likely to grow in the near future. But thing is, if you just come with a product, introduce in the market very haphazardly, even the best product may actually fail. The thing is, unless it is done carefully, systematically, in terms of the price, in terms of the choice of the distribution, in terms of the communication, in terms of the support this company is going to really make to the people who would buy these products, things will not really go well, because we have seen similar examples in the past. There's another company which is called, which is a ceasefire, which had a ceasefire product, which became a very success. A small fire extinguisher. Long back, I think I'm sure around 20 or 30 years before. It was a great product. For the first time, a small size extinguisher was brought into the market, and it became a huge success. There was a huge marketing campaign around this product. But the same company brought another product, which was vacuumizer, which was actually meant to which were a set of containers to keep food items fresh. By keeping in those containers, there would be a vacuum process in the containers, and this will actually keep things fresh. And if you can see the scope of this product, a lot of people at that point of time, unlike now, didn't have really refrigerators. Refrigerator was kind of less kind of a facility available with the middle class segment or the lower segment. But more or less, we have seen a lot of houses have actually refrigeration facilities at the house, and so keeping things fresh over a period of time becomes possible. But at that time, it was really not that. And second thing is the problem of the electricity. Now, the idea is, if you have this kind of product which has again a value for the customer, it should be, it should succeed in the market. So this product was brought into the market, and it was there was a huge marketing campaign. A multi-star movie was actually the premiere was the introduction of this product. The marketing campaign went along with that movie. I believe the movie name was Shakti, starring Amitabh Bachchan and Dilip Kumar at that point of time. This product ultimately didn't succeed in the market. What really happened? There could have been different reasons for this. Maybe the price of the product was not really appropriate. The way it was really distributed in the market, it was not really appropriate. So there could be a number of reasons. But a good product, a good concept at a point of time could have really worked, provided something would have been worked out more properly and systematically. So things can go wrong. I am not saying that it could have always succeeded. It is a possibility the product itself may not have been conceptualized correctly. There could be troubles with the product itself, because maybe the product was brought by some people and they didn't really see the benefit that they really conceived while buying the product when they really use that particular product. That is why that there may have been some failure, but the end result is that this product didn't really succeed. But if you look at the basic logic of the concept, that looks quite interesting. So that is important. That is the value creation, value sustainability, and context of that whole process to create that particular value has to be considered. And that is where this whole properly systematic way of really approaching the market becomes quite important, because otherwise there is a failure. And we don't have to go by our perception. That also happens in certain cases. A lot of entrepreneurs have their perception of things, the way I am really brought up from my childhood, the way I really see things around, and then I am trying to really bring a product in the market, because depending on what I really believe in and what I really perceive around me, it is quite possible that the actual world which is there to really buy your product or buy my product may actually have a different opinion, may have a different preference altogether. So there's a need for proper research, proper impartial understanding of the market to really avoid later troubles which happens in any entrepreneurial task. So another thing that we would now talk about is what is an opportunity, to really define it, because as we just taking the case of this Rotimatic and this another company, Ceasefire. Opportunity, it has the qualities of being attractive, durable, timely, and is anchored in a product or service that adds value for the end user. Now imagine a lot of products around you this time, and you see a lot of these products have created a lot of market value and have been, these companies have sometimes been brought at a huge humongous price. Look at what is up. I believe a lot of you guys may have been really using it. There's a clear-cut value. One can really, you don't need any philosopher or any particular analyst to really tell you the kind of value. You see the kind of value that is basically created, and see the earlier application that was so, and remained as the biggest application in the social media, Facebook. It became a huge success, and the kind of market capitalization it created, it is fantastic. So thing is, there's a value which is created, which keeps on adding more and more value over a period of time. But if you look at the whole process of creating this value, looking at an opportunity, the important thing is the opportunities are momentary over a period of time, because once an entrepreneur comes in, the opportunity is already grabbed. So the second person has to look at the incremental opportunity. That means that takes us to the point that there is need for innovation consistently. So unless the entrepreneurs are able to innovate, and as I said, in terms of the team and the resources, doesn't mean that they have to themselves actually innovate or say be creative. They can create a process where the team basically thinks creatively. Their people who are working in their venture are able to think creatively. Now, to add to this whole thing, facet, in the current times, there's an interesting concept that is happening, that is called open innovation. There's a lot of companies, organizations, even governments, what they are doing is they are opening up their process of innovation. They are asking, they are soliciting innovation from the crowd, because a lot of people give a lot of ideas. There's another company which a lot of you must have really heard about, is this company Nintendo, who create this product Nintendo. Nintendo is a multi-billion kind of an market. It is a game console with software game, digital games which kids actually play. Along with that, they create a whole lot of paraphernalia in terms of the movies, stuff and everything. When this product actually was actually developing, the lot of ideas were actually grabbed from the people who are actually using it, the kids who are using it, the teenagers who are really using it. So they kept the innovation quite open, asking people that how do we really improvise this product. So people give suggestions, and people give really wonderful suggestions, and that is how it is really happening now. As I was giving the example of Rotimatic, there's a social media presence of this product. There's a YouTube of this a series of videos lying on the YouTube of this product. They're actually asking people how to really, what kind of suggestions they have for this kind of a product. It is not only in the product, it is for the price, it is for the process, it is for the after sale service, everything. People give a lot of suggestions, because a lot of people are always there, they like to really give suggestions. As you must have seen in any kind of social network, people give suggestions without really, you don't have to really invite them to give suggestions. So there is a segment of people who are there to really innovatively think and contribute. So where does these opportunities really arise from? It can arise from a social change. And when opportunities arise from a social change, please understand it, this can be disruptive sometimes. As we are saying right now, a lot of changes which are happening, particularly the digital transformation that is happening, is disruptive kind of thing. It is a societal change. You cannot really overlook it. That is, companies who want to really grow and maintain their status in the market, and new people who want to enter into the market, entrepreneurs. That means you have to understand the societal change and see an opportunity over there. And at the same time, you have to understand, if societal change is happening consistently, as an entrepreneur, you need to maintain that, adaptability over a period of time. If the one doesn't really keep on adapting to the change that is happening in the society, there is a trouble. One of the examples that can come to mind quickly is about the music industry, entertainment industry. Entertainment industry has gone through a lot of transformation in last 3-4 decades, because when digitization really happened, we used to have those vinyl records at some point of time, and we used to play those gramophones. Then came cassettes, then came CDs and DVDs. Now you have in a USB drive. Now everything is lying in the cloud. And that is the kind of transformation that has happened. And in the process, it has not happened only in India, it has happened world over. So music industry is the worst hit at some point of time by the whole digitization process. Then there was somebody who brought in that Napster application, which actually allowed peer-to-peer download of the music, which was actually rescued to some extent by iTunes, by Steve Jobs of Apple Macintosh. So that is the kind of change that has really happened in India. We must have also really seen that T-Series brought a very big change in the music industry by providing cassettes at very lower prices, by giving opportunity to the new talent and having remixes of the earlier songs, and the songs which we used to get at some point of time at a price which was not really affordable to say a common individual became quite affordable, and that is the kind of change happened in the Indian context. But what I am trying to say is people who stuck to those, now the cassettes, they remain no more in the market. Then came the era of say CDs, people who actually thought that this thing is going to continue forever. Again CD, DVD market is over. So that is how the whole thing has changed. Now people who would now consider the current kind of say technology as the base, as a sustainable base of really running their business, probably maybe in a kind of say disbelief, in a kind of trouble in the future, because a new thing can really happen. Technology is changing so fast. So thing is, one has to really adapt over a period of time and listen to the people. So I remember one company which is called Network, which is a US based company, a small label music company, which actually encourages a lot of talent like rocks, bands, etc. A lot of music industry players actually had to suffer during this period, but this is one company which has survived and done fantastic. If one looks at what all they did in the last 30 years, they actually have opened their processes to the users of music, that people who love music, who have passion for the music, who actually are the fans of the various bands, they give a lot of feedback, they give a lot of inputs to the company in terms of how they should really evolve. So you have an open innovation process. That is what we are basically discussing. So another thing that can really happen is that there can be regulatory issues. One has to take it as a given. That is, you cannot enter a business, you cannot run an entrepreneurship unless you understand the regulatory framework very clearly. There can be a big trouble. And the processes which are involved in the regulation. That means there can be a regulatory limitation, or there can be a regulatory clearance expected in that some time, but that time frame is uncertain. I remember a company by the name of S. Kumar. We started a venture called skumar.com. The idea was to really help create a kind of a network of say kiosks across the country in India, a huge venture running to the size of around say 1400 crores or so, and different say people who have retired from their businesses would fund that whole venture to some extent. And there would be facilities in smaller towns or some urban areas, smaller cities, where you can actually supply material to the people who would come to that center, order something, and a kind of a pan-India kind of a distribution of goods would be possible. So that is how that whole venture really started. But the basic idea at that time was, it happened in early 2000. The problem was that internet was not really working that much in terms of the bandwidth. So this venture conceived that they should use actually VSAT network. But VSAT network, to be used for this kind of say facilitation, needed a kind of a clearance, regulatory clearance from the government. So there was some expected time that the entrepreneurs thought at that time it will take to clear all the things that they need to really start the business. But what happened is, over a period of time, that the clearance took a lot of time. It took some time, and by that time, because it was the investors were individuals who had actually funds like gratuity or say pension funds who had actually invested, they were impatient. They went to the court, and this thing moved on, and the project really didn't go as it was really desired. So the idea is, there's a regulatory issue in this kind of a case. That means unless we understand the regulatory requirements and how clear are they, and you must have really seen in today's reality market or say real estate market, regulatory clearance is one of the biggest issues that can happen any point of time. That many times the investors have put in the money in the real estate, and later on we realize that the government or there's some trouble, the court gives some different kind of an order, and all those investors, people have invested in the real estate, are in a fix. So there's an issue. So when your customers are facing an issue, your credibility is lost, your brand is affected as an entrepreneur, your sustainability is at stake. So that is quite important. To put this thing in a process in nutshell is recognizing a desired future state involving growth or change in terms of the opportunity, and a belief that achievement of the state is possible, which actually tells us that the commitment is quite important in case of a entrepreneur. If commitment is not there, probably one may lose the persistence, one may lose the patience, and probably that may not really help entrepreneur to really succeed. Oh, that is where the opportunity. So I would just skip this part, and we will just couple of introductory points about the opportunity. Is that a good idea is not necessarily a good opportunity, because we remember this great say entrepreneur Dhirubhai Ambani ji, who used to always say that we have a lot of good ideas, but the problem is of execution. A good idea may not necessarily be a good opportunity. There may not be a possibility of proper execution, or it may have a lot of, like we were just talking about the regulatory clearances. Idea may be great, the market size is not really big enough, market size is not really growing, or you don't have the capacities to really do that thing. So there is a problem. So a lot of people are really having a lot of ideas many times, but and they see like they are this confidence also, but when they actually come to the market, none of these ideas actually fructify. So one has to really see the the fructification of that idea is what basically really matters. So somebody says that for every 100 ideas present to the investors, usually fewer of them, around 4 get funded. I would say rather lesser, because there are a lot of venture funds which are available in India also. There is a venture fund from the government as well, and there are some equity funding groups also who are giving funds. But to really clear that whole process and to really get funded, one needs to have lot of kind of homework done, lot of conviction, and every nitty-gritty has to be really addressed, because very lesser time is given to the individual to present his or her case, and these funding companies would actually see that maybe 2 minutes, 1 minute, even say 30 seconds. You have to really say in one line what is the value you are bringing on the table and what is your competence. If one is not really able to really project that, display that, showcase that, and these funding companies basically don't really approve of your project, and that is the kind of competition that is over there. So not all entrepreneurs are lucky to really have financial backing from their family lineage. So a lot of entrepreneurs now we are really seeing is they seek funding from the market, but they have to really go through a lot of drill and grill. So that is quite important. So an investor has to be able to quickly evaluate whether potential exists and to decide how much time and effort to invest. The meaning thereby, there's a word which I would like you to underline is quickly, because these opportunities which keep on happening over there, the moment we see, oh, we have got an idea, fantastic idea, there's a huge opportunity, let us go for it, and we keep on thinking. The moment we start thinking, the process of thinking, trust me, there are a lot of people around the world who could be actually thinking on the similar lines. It is quite possible. So it has happened in the patents also. There is somebody who is trying to put his patent over here, and this process takes some time as a process here to really submit these applications. Then we realize somebody in the Nordic states has already submitted a similar kind of an application with a similar kind of an idea. So it is always possible there are a lot of people who may be actually understanding that particular opportunity, may be really pushing for that opportunity. The thing is how quickly you are able to do that, because over time every opportunity basically saturates, is realized, and people go for that. So idea is how quickly one can decide, understand, and go for a particular opportunity. So underlying market demand drives the value creation potential, and this is something that is very crucial, because estimation of the market basically is something which is which cannot be a hunch, unless really one does a due diligence of the market demand. Probably the assessment of the value and the value potential may not be really realistic. So one has to really address this through proper due diligence, do proper homework on that front. to really see what is the underlying market demand, and avoid being very selective in that, because many times we see that we like our ideas. That is the first thing, that is the trouble. Because we like our ideas, then we want to really see an opportunity for that. The moment we want to see an opportunity for that, we try to be very selective in terms of what basically favors our situation. We try to avoid those things which could be possibly hurdles to that situation, or hurdles to success of our ideas. So there is a problem. So one has to be really quite impartial, as I said in the beginning also. One has to really resort to market research, or say syndicated researches, to really do proper homework before one gets on to really telling people, look, this is a product and I want to get into the market. When I say public, I am talking about the people who are trying to fund, because a lot of these funding guys, if we are actually trying to start a venture in a particular sector, particular say technology, they have a lot of expertise in that area. We cannot take those people for a ride. As I said, 1 minute or 2 minutes, the moment you say there's a huge market in XYZ space, they will say what product, what service, and at that moment if you give a wrong kind of estimation, which is quite radically different than what their understanding is, because they are in the market, they have their own teams who are working in these markets, they keep on researching these things. So it is quite important that your research should be at least good enough, equivalent to what these guys have. So if you are really less than that, your things will not synchronize with their thinking, and probably nobody would actually fund the venture. So it is quite important that there's a tremendous amount of effort being done, and due diligence is taken care of. So the greater the growth, size, durability and robustness of the gross and net margins and free cash flows, greater is the opportunity. Now there is the bottom line of the whole process, that is, unless there is a possibility of margins, there is a possibility of growth in that area, possibility of actually cash flows, because these guys probably may be actually interested in the cash flow. So a lot of people who actually fund projects, they actually are not very much interested in the notional stuff. They are more interested in the actual physical cash flows, because cash flow is basically what probably matters to these guys more, because that is more real than virtual. So another thing that we would address is, as we said in the beginning, in terms of the pillars, is resources, creative and parsimonious. Parsimony is by simplicity. By creating complexity, we are actually not answering questions, we are creating more complexity in the whole situation. So resources have to be simplistically designed, and has to be creatively be looked at in terms of the process of getting the resources, in terms of the people being very creative for us. So basic resources, financial resources, assets, people, and on top of it is the business plan. The problem with is that a lot of people who really don't make a business plan probably don't really do the proper homework. Because if you don't make a business plan, let us say somebody starts a business and gets funding from the father or some relatives. Now what will happen? This guy would actually come into the market, start something and procure from somewhere, sell somewhere, manufacture something, and probably may succeed for some time, because this guy had some great idea which he thought of, or she thought of, and started selling something and realizing some commercial value out of it. After some time, what happens is that this guy actually fails. Now what could be the reason for the failure of this gentleman or this person? There could be a lot of reasons. This person could go wrong anywhere. This person could go wrong in the supply chain, this person could go wrong in the marketing, this person could go wrong in the team formation, this person could go wrong in governance, leadership. Anything can happen. There are a lot of things that can happen. All examples that I gave of this thing, that is a problem. But the basic problem can be avoided if somebody makes a business plan, because when you make a business plan, you have to address all these nitty-gritties, and you are asked questions, and if you are asked questions, you are well prepared. So it is always important to have a business plan before somebody starts a venture. So I think that was a starter for the whole program, or the whole series of sessions on the entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Definitely, sir. We will be talking a lot on the entrepreneurship. You have elaborated very well. Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for being with us.